respect for art is critical. Okay, respect for creativity is critical, and no matter where it comes from, you don't need to go to a Jaipur Lit Festival to figure out that these are all the best artists in the country. अब गांव गली में भी हैं, to be
Right,
honest.
right.
Okay, yeah, I respect Jaipur Lit Festival, but there is too much of art and creativity if you go, and they are just there. They don't want to come out. They're happy with themselves. So, हल्दर ना क्या करता है, जोली लेके he goes, he doesn't have much of resources, and he goes and meets poor people and says, like, you all have a societal responsibility. They've lived a life, and you're going and taking their life and want to show it in 10 minutes. So that you have to respect Haldar Nag and see that this film lives a life of its own, and it's able to see it again and again and again and still feel it's nice to watch it. Everything, you never know. You don't have outcomes. You do it and just leave it. Just do it. Naigeka, bas, karo, and forget about it. And then it has its own journey.
I just wanted to start off by probably one of the most cliched questions you've also heard about your venture, but like what led you to conceptualize Virtual Bharat and what kind of pushed you to initiate a project of this kind?
You saw the last film where in the Haldar Nag, Gulzarji says, write a letter to yourself to discover you. I'm a filmmaker. I just want to make films to discover myself. That's the reason, Virtual Bharat gives you the freedom to go and make a film about anything. So that is the power of imagination and creativity. As filmmakers, we can, try to take any subject and figure out how to tell a story and make it so compelling and use the tools of cinema and creativity. And most importantly, as a filmmaker, you're defining moments or when you make a film, feature film, right? So, but what excites me doing Virtual Bharat is when you meet these kind of varied kind of stories and human emotions, uh, that learning of human emotions is going to be a phenomenal strength when you go and make a movie. So when you see a Manu Master, when you see a Haldar Nag, when you see a Seth Bai in Ramnami, being there with them and seeing all of that and this whole experience of me crafting so many stories is so, I would say it's a treasure for a filmmaker, because if you can make a story in 10 minutes and make it well crafted and tell a particular deep aspect of that story, I think you hone your skills as a filmmaker so well, and you are your own client in this. Like I don't need approval of a studio or anything. So it is that not sitting idle, because growing up we're always told about, oh my God, India is rich with culture, heritage. सुन सुन के मैं थक गया. And what is it? What is your uh, understanding of culture? It could be some priest coming home and doing some Vedic chanting, or going and watching a Bharatanatyam dance, or a Carnatic music, or a Hindustani music. We just boxed it like that. And I'm not able to understand or feel an emotion, or, so this journey of finding unique stories and making them into, you know, uh, like uh, like a small narrative is such an enriching experience of understanding, which I didn't understand for the first 40 years of my life what culture is. We think we are creative, but we are nothing. When you go out and lead a life of Manu Master, a Haldar Nag, or Seth Bai in Ram Nami, the face you saw, art, creativity, poetry, they live it. We're just packaging it. And we call ourselves artists. They are the true artists. So I get emotional every time when I go and meet these kind of people who lived a life with no expectation. And they're not seeking your recognition or your accolades to recognize. We in today's world, first film, short film, I want to see which festival it goes, where all I want, all that nonsense. They've given a life, and look at Ram Nami, right? They could have just put Ram somewhere here or there. For me, what attracted was the detailing. It was photographically so beautiful, artistic. Every one of them. See, each body is different. If you take each person's shape is different. And men and women, if you see a person's head, the guy has concentric circles coming of Ram, 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 Ram. How do they design it? And they're not artists, they're just doing it like, they're sculptors. Okay. And, but it is so painful. And you look at the story, it is a story of tapasya, penance. So, oh my God. And imagine we just not, this is just 4 films. Imagine the scope of stories that we have. And I really think that it's a blessing for me that I could, this medium suddenly now, especially this age we are in. Like earlier, I come from an era of traditional films. I started with normal 16 mm, 35 mm, and then, film editing, steam back, then going on to high band, low band, pneumatics, and then coming to beta cam, digi beta cam, and then coming into digital. And so this gives you the opportunity, and then suddenly, I think the entire piece of cinema has evolved and made it so interesting that if we don't grab this opportunity and experience all of this, it'll be a shame because cameras have become such compact and you are able to have so many more tools to go. And so you have all these gears and they are affordable. The only thing it takes is your commitment to go out there to make those stories and research them well. And then it's not just that I'm doing it. Okay, let me put it this way. It's humanly impossible. I'm always looking for talents, whether they are editors. Like I've worked with some of the top cinematographers in the world. I started my first film ever I exposed on 35 on film was during my advertising days was with John Matheson. He's a cinematographer, DOP for Ridley Scott, and he did Gladiator. I've enriched myself working with these amazing cinematographers, but at Virtual Bharat, I work with totally new people, fresh. And how do you push them? And then, you learn a lot. I'm sure I'm also guiding them with certain art. But another interesting point every time I look at it is that all these films I work with different people. Okay, whether it is sound design, editors, cinematographers. Okay, but there is a certain aesthetics and a sense of art as a continuity across virtual Bharat. So if we can raise the bar and bring creativity in a way, for example, you don't want a short film where you just see it once and you forget about it. Can each of these stories, because they've lived a life and you're going and taking their life and want to show it in 10 minutes. So can that you have to respect Haldar Nag and see that this film lives a life of its own and it's able to see it again and again and again and still feel it's nice to watch it. And if somebody, let's say 5 years down the line, comes and sees Haldar Nag, it shouldn't feel it's a dated film. So there's so many aspects that goes behind, After all, we just say it's a short film. But, I think I have to give my credit to advertising. I think my 500-600 commercials that I've done have figured out have helped me how to capture beautiful moments in the shortest period of time. At the end of the day, if you're surrounded by people, doesn't matter the age, you know if they have a passion that comes together, I think that energy will help us make some beautiful films.
You very rightfully said, like, our understanding of like diversity and culture is so superficial. We read it in our books sometimes. Like, I still remember, like, we came across a movement called Spick McKay. I think they still try
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
enter schools and colleges, and got to know so much in terms of just instruments through them. Because this is very this is something that's come out of this ground itself. So I also wanted to know, like, these stories that you found and research in these few films that have come out, they themselves are like so unique and seem so kind of like away from us. What goes into like selecting these stories, and some of which stories have like kind of not made it out there but like had a huge impact on you?
See, honestly, a lot of people ask me, how do you find these stories? You just have a deep desire. I can find stories in every nook and corner. I can make 50 stories a day. If I just walk across Mumbai, I'll just say, hey, let's make a film on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, It's like, take Haldar Nag, okay? I read about him, and then, but I didn't know his personality, okay? But then we were, okay, the crew's already in that location, and, there's all some dusty towns. And one has to suddenly look at his poetry, and you stumble upon a poem that he has written, a letter to himself. So we anchor it with that, because suddenly it becomes biographical. Okay. And I have to share something about Haldar Nag's story. Uh, we made the film, and it is in Kosli language. Okay. None of us know what he's speaking, but it sounds interesting. So I went and presented this film to Gulzar Saab. And I said, "Ab dekhiye ji, Gulzar." He was really blown. And then he said, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "You have to anchor him and take him to the world." So next day he phoned me and said, "Bharat, मैं सोच रहा था, हलदार, मैं तुझे खत लिख रहा हूं." And he said, "I will write a letter to Haldar." And then when he narrated that whole thing on the phone, my God, I just like, oh my God. And then that 4 lines, he brings it and arrives and leaves it with the idea that they are the first people, Adivasi, was so magical. Okay, so that happened. And then he's such a beautiful soul. He allowed me to film him, very cool. Okay. After a month, he calls me and says, "Hey, Bharat, I am publishing 365 poems, which is a poem a day with HarperCollins. And I want Haldar Nath to be the opening poem of my book." And so Haldar was more than happy. And then he's such an opportunity. Okay, that happened. Next, this year in the Jaipur Lit Festival, Gulzarji personally goes and launches the book. And to launch the book, they show the film. Everything, you never know. We don't have outcomes. You just you do it and just leave it. Just do it. Naigeka, bas, karo, and forget about it. And then it has its own journey. And that's fascinating. And, I'm still learning. Every film we figure out something or the other. And same way, like I was going to film Ramnami, and in the airport, in the security, I found Kailash Kir standing next to me. So he said, "Sir ji, आप कहाँ जा रहे हो?" मैंने कहा, "मैं फिल्म करने जा रहा हूँ about Ram." And he said, "क्या कहानी क्या है?" तो मैं देखा, फिर ऐसे कुछ लगा, "अच्छा ये सब छोड़, तू गाएगा मेरे लिए?" He said, "Yeah." And that was it. And then I came back, and then, to be fair to him, he's also a passionate guy. Okay. तो अभी उन्होंने कहा कि मैं भी म्यूजिक ही कर देता हूँ. Okay. So he did. Somewhere that didn't work for me. But I went for his emotion, for his voice, for his, that feeling when he sings. Okay. And उन्होंने अच्छी तरह लिखा. I gave him all the lines from what these communities speak. हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हमारा तन है और मन ही मंदिर है. In Trivandrum, there's a music composer called Varki who had done Talam. Okay.
Mhm.
उसको ना कुछ पता है, उसको हिंदी नहीं आती है, उसको he doesn't understand about he's never heard of probably Ramcharitramanas. Okay.
Mm.
Now मैंने उसको बोला यार तेरे को करना पड़ेगा. That is the challenge. So it's kind of we are like a lab. We do all experiments, but experiments for a phenomenal result. Okay. We will not compromise on that. Can you believe Varki, a Catholic probably, started reading Ramcharitramanas and he took some dohas of Ramcharitramanas and he sings at the end. You see, he's also singing. And the way he's produced it is something phenomenal. And this kind of surprises is what is these discoveries of finding creative people from different holes from Assam to Trivandrum is a phenomenal journey.
You've spoken of your journey and just like the experiences that you've had sound so enriching. What are some learnings or something that you've encountered throughout this journey of like maybe traveling through the country or meeting this diverse set of people that you'd love for like people like, for example, us to know? And you've already shared a few as to, like kind of go for it and like do the work. But anything else that is like really stuck with you that you'd like to share with us as well?
Every story is a very emotional engagement, whether it is Ram Nami or Alda. We are just talking within these 4 films, but we have published about 26 films so far. You can see them on our channel, Virtual Bharat on YouTube. People are so kind. They don't think that you're coming to exploit them. That's a very big, because they engage. And then I'm not asking them to do something which they don't do. Whatever shots you say is like how they walk, how they live. We just capture it very cinematically. It's about we try to be a part of them for the next 5 days when we go and film with them and we eat with them, we almost live with them. Okay. And that experience is just and then suddenly camera doesn't become something external for them. Like if I just place the cam lens and go so close to them, because I need some big shots. Okay. I treat faces as landscapes and landscape as landscape, faces as landscape. So all of that suddenly is so easily achievable. I never get tired. I never get bored or find it difficult and then say, thing is, something you would have planned, it didn't happen. But something 10x, 100x better shows up in front of you. So just take what comes and be content and shape the film. Like a film which we have not shown, but I recently shot in Bastar in Chhattisgarh. And while we were returning, so I was not somewhere I was feeling uh, not content with the way we had filmed, or some connection of the story was missing. Okay, पता नहीं क्या है, but एक gap था. And obviously we had to travel back because it was another 4 hour drive back to civilization, and then the next day the cruise traveling. So almost it was near sunset, and we had just packed up and we were just traveling. And the crew had gone ahead, and I was just going in my Innova. And suddenly I looked left in my phone, one phenomenal tree, and the sunset on the tree. Now I called everybody back, and we did film that tree. And now suddenly the entire film, the story is told by the tree. It's a film called Baiga. It'll come out soon. And you got to see how the tree gets anchored. And Christy, who's the editor, has just made a masterpiece out of it. So it like the idea is you got to be open. You got to be open. And there is so much to absorb and film when you go out. You got to be open and keep it simple. Sometimes we go and try to too complicated, and then I don't like to have too many gears, too many things. I don't like to unnecessarily shoot drone everywhere. Okay, unless it is a part of the story, you'll not film it. I just want the lensing to be nice so that the, whether I film a Dhanush or whether I film Saved by of Ramnami, I feel that I've got the right lensing for my subject, and that's it. This whole non-fiction space, just because it's called non-fiction, for me everything is cinema. uh, is so exciting that when you're able to frame with people who are not actors and what they give is so much to learn and absorb.
Just to start off, to state the obvious, I'm a huge admirer of your work, right? But sir, I want to ask about, right? So in your films, there is a humanity in the eyes, right? It's like there is a gleam, okay, and you can almost see the soul of the person. So like you immediately connect with the subject, okay. So be that Haldar, be that the Ram Navami, and or be like in Vande Mataram. I've seen like all your films, and there's like this beautiful thing in there. So I just wanted to talk about that. Also, cover it from the lensing plus catchlight aspect of it, like technically plus like what you're trying to say. Both, I want to know.
I think the credit goes way back. Uh, my father was a photojournalist, okay, and the man, no, he just had a Nikon F camera, and he has photographed great political leaders of this land, like whether it is Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, etc., as a photojournalist, and then he was a war correspondent. So if you take his images, he just like how he captures, he's not setting up lights, this or that. He's probably grabbed the emotions, and then somewhere observing him, I think I'm like really into finding that frame, and somewhere the lens and the shape of the face becomes perfect. Even if you take Vande Mataram, there are some Rabari tribes with just brown eyes and just the faces and just looking at me, and there is a Lata Mangeshkar's Vande Mataram video.
I've seen it, sir.
Yeah, in that there is I
The
very
Konkan
fondly
lady,
remember.
the
Yeah,
lady
yeah,
Konkan lady, where you pan the
yeah.
shot like this and her eyes just light up. Oh my god.
In that there is another shot. If you just look at that, now when you go back.
Yeah.
So okay, let me also tell you that quite a lot of my work, I work with people who find it totally foreign to the landscape they go into. For example, Vande Mataram was shot by a British cinematographer who had never been to India. Okay, so I just landed him straight in Kutch, and he has 5,000 people in front of him. Okay, and at that time, in locally we couldn't hire a lens called 135, and I just wanted that 135 lens, and he hired it from London and brought it, and we used a lot of 135 lensing in that, and
Is the telephoto lens, right, sir? Where you shoot, the subject punches in basically.
yeah. It's it just gives it just squeezes the whole thing,
Squeezes
and
it, compresses it.
yeah, and then basically your subject matter becomes very very strong. Okay, so in Rajasthan there was one, while I go in, I'm always looking for people faces. Suddenly you catch an eye, and there was a small little girl in a green dress. It was very early in the morning. The village had only 3 or 4 huts, and she saw us coming, and I had a look at her, and we had an eye contact, and then she ran away. And I was started looking for her, and the villagers said she has, sir, wo bhag gayi. So I said, I don't care, usko jaake utha ke leke aao. So my ADs went, literally pulled her like that and brought her. Okay, now I just keep her. I had to put a dolly there, and I just keep her on the door, and she's holding on to the door like that. And I didn't say a thing. We had a kind of a little bit of a gussa anger going on. And I just kept the lens on her eyes, and I tracked. And she gave me that look of anger continuously. Man, that's one of the most beautiful shots for me.
That's one of the most. It also reminds me of like sort of like Steve McCurry's Afghan Girl, right? That shot totally reminds you of that.
So like that, there are so many. Like the thing is, National Geographic
Yeah.
sent photographers with good lenses, and they came and photographed India. हम नहीं गए. हम जाएंगे. We can take even better pictures.
That's
See,
right.
when I started Vande Mataram, my point of reference was always go to five-star hotels and buy India books, like coffee table books on India, shot by some French photographer, some American, some British photographer. मेरे को गुस्सा आई है. That I said, अभी हम जाके we will film on motion picture 35 mm, and that's
Wow.
what we have been doing.
That's beautiful stuff. So I also wanted to ask you one more question about how extensively do you pre-plan these films? Because like, I mean, I'm sure like these are not for any clients, right? And you are limited time and resources on every film. So do you go there and discover these subjects extensively and like take lots of coverage? And or like do you plan every shot before? Do you do a recce? How do you go about this?
Even though they are short films, like I don't go and film for 10 minutes. I go and
Right.
film a story. Okay, tomorrow I can make even a long form documentary. I have material for that. But let's take, for example, Ram Navami. Okay, so we had researched it, and there's so much only you can find through internet. First thing is, they don't live together in one place. Each, like a small family is living in one village, the other is living 70 kilometers away, the other is living 40 kilometers away. So to collect all of them or film all of them in different places, but still make the film as one story, homogeneous, is a challenge.
Right.
So we'll go and do a recce. And when we do the recce is when we get a little bit of ground story and we know people who are genuinely willing to engage with us. Okay. Obviously, local contacts are critical for this.
Right.
And you have to break and you've got to be one among them. Okay. And uh, second is after the recce, we then go there and then obviously it's almost a 3 trip to make one film. And that much effort is required. And then when we are there, we just spend 4 5 days, you know, don't want to rush through because usme se film nahi banega.
Right.
And maximum, we should try to keep 5 to 6 people with us. That's it. Because
Smaller
all we
crews.
yeah, live sound. Okay. So if I am the director, I'm also the AD. Okay. ऐसा होना चाहिए. And we need, because we also want to take photographs. Now we're also grabbing 360 films. Like if you put the film and tomorrow you want to know where is this village, I can give you a 360 camera footage of what the environment of those people are. So we want to cover that.
I saw Ram Navami film like a couple of months back, and the first time when like Kailash Kher's voice mata Ram hi paar lagayenge, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that, like I still get like goosebumps all over my body, and like the first time I heard it, I got like emotional. And I'm not even like that religious. I'm not religious at all, but I don't know, it just hits. It's like like justice was served.
You talked about you use the word religion, right?
Yes, sir.
So many of our subject matters are religion based. Okay, you go architecture, you take a temple, you take Manu Master, everything will have some or the other. I am treating religion as culture. I am not, if you look at it, it is not something, people who are not part of, belong to some other religion will never have an objection to seeing Ram Navami. I think we turn every story into a human story rather than, you cannot ignore religion. Let that be, so be it. But can we present it as a human story?
Having seen your work, the runner in Chennai who runs early morning every day, who's actually a general manager of the railways, right? That's the kind of work you have picked. Then the school for senior citizens in Maharashtra. Then all the films that we saw here. So every one of them is something that has never been done before. That's the beauty. It is not that Dabbawala story of Bombay has been done, 1,000 times? So you've never done anything that has been done before. So my question is, while you're doing 1,000 stories of Virtual Bharat, will you take time out and make a fiction, a regular movie once again, like Dhanush's Marianne?
I think what is exciting, one should we are always, as a filmmaker, let's say, go into the fiction space, we're struggling to find the stories, and we're struggling to find original stories. Okay. What is exciting for me is that we are discovering so many stories that can become very special indie movies. Okay. Well, I'm just saying, for example, there is a film called Muduvan Kalyanam, okay, in Virtual Bharat. It's called Wedding in the Hills. Okay. It's
Yeah.
about how an Adivasi community it's a very Amazonian forest in the border of Tamil Nadu and Kerala in the Silent Valley zone, and how, in order for them to become a married couple, the bride is first let into the forest, and she'll go and sing from deep inside, and the bridegroom has to find her. If he finds her, they are declared man and woman, etc. I think that's a very phenomenal love story, and which we could uh, take it and make it like what will happen. Will he find her or not? So there are so many stories which are definitely scalable to be made into motion picture, and tell good stories. So this is actually a very good discovery angle of finding stories.
That's right.
What were some of your kind of influences of growing up, which has kind of like shaped your journey as a filmmaker, whether it's movies or, like literature in terms of like poetry and books? Did you have that kind of influence while you were growing up that kind of is the foundation of your current interest in, exploring different cultures as well?
Honestly, I'm not a well-read guy. Okay. But I have great interest in humanities. So even if I see a mochi or a cobbler, I'll just see him working, and I immediately, for me, it cooks up into some bloody story. Okay. So I can, like, koi bus conductor hai, I can see him having a conversation with the passenger, and then there is a moment, there is a story there. So things like that, I just observe reality a lot, and reality, emotions, at the heart of it, humanity. Okay. मेरे को people से बहुत पसंद है, and they can be anybody, and then when I will see them only in their real spaces. So even when you take Vande Mataram, the first video, I don't call it much bigger than a video, but at that time when we did Mataji Salam, you know, any songs like music videos are all choreographed, this dance, this, that, etc. I said, out of the window. And I'll walk in to every village as they are. Many villages in India, they don't even take a bath for a week. Okay. But you'll have to find beauty in their face, in their clothes. You don't need to see ye garib hai, ye dirty hai. You will never ever see that. So if your intent and the way you see it is the way you will, what do you say, capture it also. So that's very critical. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of thing is about observational, and obviously over the years you start watching a lot. Okay. But at the heart of it, uh, really observing, and I travel a lot, and I like meeting people. Koi bhi mil gaya.
Have you ever faced any sort of, I mean, you just mentioned that people that you've met are actually very kind, but have you ever faced like sort of a backlash, like we do not like the way you represented us, or maybe you shouldn't tell our story because you haven't lived it? That kind of a, did you ever go through that?
Mm, I don't think so. Not yet. Not
Mhm.
yet. Um, I think, for example, when we did Ram Navami, we did it on our own and we put it out. We got some. It went. We got good viewership for it. It went viral and whatever. So the government of Chhattisgarh called us and said straight away, the chief minister, and said, "ये आपने क्या कमाल कर दिया है? ये हमारे गांव हमारे क्षेत्र के हैं, and people are loving it, and we in our state are wanting to promote culture, and this is something phenomenal you're doing. What can you do for us, he asked. So I said, I'll go to Bastar and make more films. He said, okay, go ahead and make. So by the time when we go to the same area, people have already heard, they have seen, they have already seen Ram Navami. So it's just a confidence building thing, you know.
Because you're one of those rare creative person, or one of those rare filmmakers who who've not only done feature films, but you've also done short documentaries or short films. I just wanted to understand, as a filmmaker or as an individual, and I'm only assuming that you may have your own different way of how your own different method of approaching each of these method of whether it's a documentary or it's a feature film or it's a short film. And the counter, and also the subsection of the question would be, which is more challenging according to you, and which is it that you enjoy filming the most?
For me, it's all about the idea. Okay. And each idea manifests itself to be delivered or created in a certain form. If an idea warrants to be made as a feature film, it has to be done like that. If it is to be made as a short film, so be it. If it is to be just made as a music video, so be it. So you can't suddenly, put something and make it into another thing, and it doesn't fit into that. So that's why I don't say I'm a filmmaker means I only make feature films. No, for me, it's all about ideas. It's like you nourish the idea, you shine the idea, and let the idea present itself. And if it is like, say, it's best in a short film, so be it. Like when I made Mariam, okay, I just saw a small newspaper article in Mumbai Mirror which said in Sudan, there were 4 immigrant workers working in the oil fields of Sudan, and they have been kidnapped by the child soldiers. And one of them had a love story. Okay. And after being in 21 days in captivity, 3 of them decided to escape in the desert, bare feet, ran 600 kilometers over the next 12 days or whatever. Okay. To find freedom, blah, blah, blah. But eventually he came back to his love. Okay. And got married. Okay. He survived the ordeal. Now, I thought that's an interesting story to make. And that, it was set in Punjab, but I wanted to be set in as a Tamil film. So I set it up as a fisherman story in Kanyakumari. And then I got characters and actors who just look like a fisherman, like Dhanush easily adapts himself as a fisherman. And Parvati, the actress, was his love interest. And she was like a woman from the fishing village or from Kanyakumari. So for me, it has to feel organic. You don't need to be burdened to make it feel, oh my God, it's out of place. How am I going to make them fit? Like that is fundamental. It has to feel organic. And let's say, for example, I'm a filmmaker, okay? But when government called me to say, invited me and said, conceive and direct the opening ceremony of Commonwealth Games, okay, in 2010. Now, for me, it was exciting because I admire Zhang Yimou, the filmmaker, the Chinese filmmaker. I'm passionate about his movies. So he was the guy who conceived and directed the Beijing Olympics. So mera keeda aa gaya, hum bhi karenge. That's it. So, and I said, no Bollywood. Okay. I had 18,000 performers in the opening act. All of them were just folk, tribal music, and classical art forms of India, like performing arts. And that's it. And I said, we will give these people the stage, the sound, and the lights, and the production design to make it look kick-ass. That's it. So it's about the idea, and that's what drives me. Like now, what drives me about Virtual Bharat is like, my God, we are infested with ideas. हम बोलते रहते हैं ना हमारे पास 1.4 बिलियन है, वैसे हमारे पास उतने कहानी भी है.
I'm sure.
You know, why are we sitting idle? See, when I meet a young filmmaker, everybody wants to, आजकल देखो अब कीड़ा क्या है, अभी प्रॉब्लम क्या है? Everybody wants to quick calling call, come out of film school and say, I'm a writer director. मेरे पास छोटा लड़का कोई आता है, पहली बार विजिटिंग कार्ड दिखाता है, राइटर डायरेक्टर. उसका उसका बायो में राइटर डायरेक्टर क्या लिखा है यार, तूने क्या बनाया, क्या देखा है यार? You make a 10-minute film and be worthy of it first. For me, I see the 10-minute film as a scene of a movie. If you can tell that scene beautifully, man, you got the craft to go and make film. So ये लोग ना अभी, this is like हम इतने रगड़ के आए हैं, अभी भी डर लगता है. It's not that I'm afraid. You know, every time you make a film, whether it is a short film or a feature film, you're back to ground zero. पता नहीं कैसे आएगा. Like I walk into a set, like in a feature film, and even though I prepared, I'm blank. And then I start over, and then I find excited and I find something. In fact, you should watch my Marianne. You will see
I
how,
will.
certain scenes were all like two characters, okay, Dhanush and Parvati, Marianne and Panimala as characters. They had a telephone call, okay. Now you should see the emotions as though they are like, talking to it, lying with it. And it's such emotional range of conversation that's going on, okay. And we shot them 6 months apart. He doesn't know what she's speaking. She doesn't know what he's speaking. You put the scene together, man, it's unbelievable. So that's the power of when a character internalizes, becomes an actor. So, that I learned from that. कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है. For me, capturing live sound, whether it's cinema or short films, is critical because you feel the honesty. उसमें सच्चाई निकलती है.
So, sir, my question is, like you mentioned in the beginning that, like we, like the creatives now, we hardly think like, we are actually creative people. We actually are more sort of guys who do packaging and, sell things rather than actually be the creative ones. Like you mentioned Haldar Nag and the people who are doing Ramnami and all these people, like, they are actually living the art. So my thing is like, what's wrong? Because you just mentioned in the previous question also, the people now coming to you directly are saying they're writer, director, then doing the work before. So what's going wrong with our generation, like where we are lacking, first of all? Second question in that continuation is that, so what is your creative process? And, what do you suggest to people like us who have started out and into this field, and, how we can stay, like rather than anything else, how we can stay true to our process? What is your cheat for that?
See, I can't generalize to say that today's talent is all bakwas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
understand.
I work with them. I get inspired by them. And just generally when I go out to film, and when you have your subject, which is like people like Haldar Nag and all, you feel very small, in the sense like you call yourself like one creative big shot. There are stalwarts in front of you where you can get inspired and learn from. It's that respect for art is critical. Okay, respect for creativity is critical, and no matter where it comes from, you don't need to go to a Jaipur Lit Festival to figure out that these are all the best artists in the country. Ab gaon galli mein bhi hai, to be honest. Okay, yeah, I respect Jaipur Lit Festival, but there is too much of art and creativity if you go, and they are just there. They don't want to come out. They're happy with themselves. So Haldar Nag kya karta hai? Joli leke, he goes. He doesn't have much of resources, and he goes and meets poor people and says, like, you all have a societal responsibility. ये क्या तरीका है? Where will they get their food? But he inspires them, saying like, listen, take poison and give nectar. So for me, this Virtual Bharat has exposed me to really, like feel that we have you're one among this ocean of people, and you have to respect that. And here's an opportunity, you can discover more. So all of that, so that, when you're in that space, in that zone where you're traveling like this, and you're seeing number of stories, and suddenly somebody walks in and shows you some fictional short film, and I feel, kya kiya tune bhi? So it is about not knowing where you are heading, and you figure out something very interesting, and you shine that stone and it becomes like a diamond. That's what one is seeking. Like, give me some unusual stories, give me something, don't take, acha, so मैं एक short film बनाया है, I got Anupam Kher, and अरे यार ठीक है यार, give me with an unknown face, make him act and hold my attention.
Right.
That is powerful, not with some celebrated actor, who's a great performer, no doubt about it. But if you can, in your early days, if you can pick up something, that's why going to non-fiction and being with real people, and you're able to frame them like fiction and make it like a strong narrative, that's where really hone your craft. For me, it's exciting. I'm learning.
So just a few observations and one small question is that I've seen that you're sort of slowing down the frame rate quite a lot when you're having close-ups of these people that you're sort of valorizing and talking about their lives. So is that sort of like a conscious, because I see that happening in almost all the four, where once you're in the space that these people are occupying, well, first of all, it's first an incident, and then it goes into that ethnographic space where you go into these lives and you see how they're living it out. And then sort of immediately the mark of that person is the footsteps or the footprints that they're putting on soil, or the ablutions that they're having and the way they're emerging out of holy rivers through that sort of stream of spirituality. So are these motifs are they deliberate? Are they constant in the sense that do they mean something special for you when you're sort of approaching these real life people? Is that for you a device to sort of like some context setting? Okay, this is the guy I'm looking at, and this is how he emerges out from, say, the ignorance of other people's imagination or things like that. Like, people don't know about him, this is how I'm bringing him to the fore, and then I explore his life. Is that a motif you use always, or is it something you're using for this format?
There are two aspects to it. One is, I use high schools when when we are having conversations, we won't have it. For example, in the Haldarnak film, the opening lines, he says, हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, हमारा तन और मन ही मंदिर है. Okay, जब वो कहता है, so I could have shot the entire face, okay, but I shot like this, and I kept that as a landscape, and I shot that normal. Okay, so setting up the film was that. Okay, and then especially you're taking normal people watching these kind of things. If I just shoot them normal, they might be ignored. So if I have to punch them, highlight them, and bring it to the audience attention, you have to make it exciting. We got to make it emotional. These are all the tools available. But it is a challenge that I don't want to fall trap to just high-speed filming. That's for sure. I don't want to fall trap for that. So it just makes it poetic, lyrical. The subject matter is like that, and that's why it adds to it. Otherwise, I don't think we should use this as just a device. If you're not able to see it, I think then it's fantastic. If you see it, I have failed, or we failed, because you shouldn't observe that. Like, whenever I shoot a drone shot, I don't want to know that I've taken a drone shot. I just need to know, hey, wow, it was another perspective.
The drones were actually very instinctive in the sense that when I'm into the action of these people, whether they're present as in the exoticized cultural festival of boat rowing, or whether it's somebody who's written Ram on their skin, and it becomes indistinguishable from skin. So all of that, and then suddenly you show them on those lonely islands near those streams, those brooks, under trees, and you then go up. That is sort of like an instinctive bird's eye that we get that how these people are defining their larger existence, so to say. So that is very that transition is extremely seamless. But the slow motions and those footsteps, they feel a bit deliberate in the sense that you're enlarging the canvas with these people.
Yeah, I did that. I think I wanted to make every moment, every detail of their body part into a landscape. So that's the reason it is.
I have one more question, sir. Basically, I wanted to ask these people you're capturing, right? These are regular folk, right? They are actually not used to limelight at all. So when you go and capture these people, right, and you have pretty sure you have a lot of equipment, you're probably shooting on a large body camera or something like that. Then how do these people become like so natural on the camera? Like, because I have shot with some subjects before and they get super conscious about the equipment, about the camera, then they stop acting themselves.
First of all, we don't give our people call sheets. Okay? उनको कोई डराते नहीं है. Like all our subject matters, you go spend time with them, and then first should have a comfort, and they have to start trusting you. Okay, and rest is a breeze. Main thing is they never feel that a lens is coming in their way. I'm always next to the lens. I'm always being with them. You have interactions. Whoever the other directors also, they engage with their subject matter a lot and give them feel that the comfort.
The kind of like passion and zeal with which you talk about the films that have been made and in general about cinema, the way that you kept saying that, you're still learning. I mean, what are a few things that keeps you going and keeps you this committed to this project? Because it can be quite, ambiguous. There are so many uncertainties involved in the stories and in this kind of a unique kind of a mission. So what keeps you going? What keeps you grounded to keep at it?
Come to Virtual Bharat and spend 3 months with us. You'll discover what is that, what do we eat, what do we breathe, why do we do these things, So I think I'm surrounded by a fantastic team of people. What is exciting is they're all from, quite a lot of them are in Mumbai. And even though they have opportunities to go and do some other, AD in some other film or this or that, they are passionate about what we are doing. And that's what keeps us exciting. And these kind of discuss, at the end of the day, when we are about, imagine in the channel, we have about 200 films. And each film is something unique in a different language. Within a second, you can see what's there in Tamil Nadu, what's there in Arunachal Pradesh. Find some amazing stories. So we're heading towards that, and that's what will. And we want to bring. It has to be a vibrant community. And I'm not asking young people to come and take a job with us. No, just come, be a part of 3 to 6 months, do 2 films, and go and find what your calling is. So that it's constantly nourished with fresh ideas, fresh exchanges, and that is the ingredient.
Amazing. Virtual museum, that's what I remember reading about. Virtual
Yeah.